first rule, do no harm.
So ridiculous.
Like, that's going to national parks. Weak start, unfortunately, Danny, what was the last Pokemon card you bought?
Like in general, or like a single card?
Well, I just always look at your wonderful Pokemon plushies in the background, and I was just wondering, like, when's the last time you bought like a booster pack or like a starter or something like that? It's like, when's the last time you got some cards?
So usually I buy the Elite Trainer packs. So like it's like the $60 like box set, and it's like 10 packs of cards.
Okay.
Because I am like I would call myself a casual collector. Like I have a portfolio now where I like put all my cards of actual value in like the sleeves and everything. So it's just like a collection. The last time I bought cards was in December.
Okay. All right. Did you get anything fun?
Yeah, I got a alternate art holographic full art Blastoise that was worth like $80.
Now, Danny, I think my real question should have been, what do you call the shiny Pokemon cards? I think that would have been a more succinct starter, because that's really where I wanted to get to.
Gotcha.
And you answered it right there with saying holographic, which is, in my opinion, the correct way. And I don't think that's the world's opinion. I think there's more, because I've heard like people call them foils.
Oh, like, some people call them foils or I mean, usually
holographics is the classic.
Hollows.
Yeah. I got my hollows. Got my hollows like booked out or whatever. You could really make that a menacing sounding rap lyric without it being menacing at all.
Yeah.
I got my hollows in the jacket or something, and it's like we're talking about a plastic sleeve jacket.
There's like a TikTok that I saw a couple of months ago, where it's just like some dude like I believe everyone has the right to defend themselves, and he kind of goes like, you're like, oh boy, this is about to be a pro gun video, and then he goes, I just don't think it should be with guns, and he busts out the Yu-Gi-Oh arm thing. Yeah. It's so funny. I'm like, it could be something like that, where it's like, I got the hollows for you or something, and then it's like, oh, I'm talking about Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
That's good.
Danny, before we introduce our podcast, I think that we should have someone focus on Yu-Gi-Oh exclusively for like a VR platform. Just make the best, most immersive Yu-Gi-Oh, and I would spend $1,000 on if someone was like, if someone came to me today and they were like, this is $1,000. It only plays Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's fucking really good. I'd be like, all right, cool.
That might get me back into Yu-Gi-Oh.
I'm in. That would totally get me back into Yu-Gi-Oh.
I just needed something to spend $1,000. It needed to be worth $1,000 for me to do it.
I would easily pay $1,000 to wear the wrist thing and have that be 3D, all the AI
with the lights and everything. Yeah. With the that would be sick as hell. That would be sick
because the one thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is it made slapping cards onto your wrist look so hardcore.
To this day, you activated my trap card is like still a thing. It's like still a legendary pop culture reference.
Shouts out Yu-Gi-Oh.
Shouts out Yu-Gi-Oh and the heart of the cards. This is the DMGT podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
Yeah, it is. And I'm Spencer.
Spencer, what are we talking? We got a lot to talk about today.
We got some stuff to talk about, and we're gonna definitely go off the rails, I would assume.
I mean, we already kind of did, yeah.
Watch out. Sensitive topics for Danny and Spencer to get too excited about talking about.
Yeah.
So be careful.
Spicy.
But we're going to start out a little smoother. Some would say almost silky. because I wanted to talk about Silksong because I'm forming a
Smooth.
conspiracy theory, and I want to share where I'm at with it right now.
Silky smooth.
We're gonna talk some Fallout. Just the first 4 episodes. Like we're not gonna probably spoil all that much, except to just talk about the general vibes. But,
and I have thoughts, lots of thoughts.
And then we're probably gonna get stuck talking about kind of AI stuff for a bit. Mostly around TCL's original movie trailer that dropped. That's fully AI. Which is interesting. And then we're gonna talk about humane AI because hey, it's popular to talk about right now.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what this is for.
This absolutely is what this is.
A podcast like this is for topical stuff that's happening, so that's what we're doing. So Danny,
so good,
okay,
so good.
Silksong. All right, so
yeah.
Today we get the announcement, or not the announcement. We get news that Australia has rated Silksong, their rating system.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I don't know what the average is for that when it's like rating to release, but I don't think it's 5 years. I think it's within the next little while. You know,
you can't rate a game without it playing it or like
right. So it's like
having access to it.
Yeah, there's got to be something. So that got me to thinking about all this like Silksong hype that has been there the entire time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like since Silksong was announced, it just has not relented. And how silent Team Cherry has been throughout this entire. I mean, honestly, this is why I was like, oh, let's think about what a conspiracy theory could be here. Because it's, how they start, which is a lack of information about something people want to know more about.
Yep.
So to fill in the gaps is, what we're doing here. And that's we're doing this for fun, not for reals.
Correct.
But I think that all of the stuff we're hearing of like Twitch people doing like, I saw like a Verge article that was like Twitch is like doing seances for Silksong. Or like they're doing chants in like every live streaming video that's happening of just Silksong and like trying to will it using like chaos magic to happen.
Yep.
My thought is, what if a lot of this is just deeply cloaked Team Cherry people, and they just chose to make this their kind of marketing, and it's like it's like part of their obtuse storytelling that they're building all of this mystery and like this weird bit of like witchcraft that has started to enter it, where people are like truly just being weird and silly about it. But it's like, what if this is them marketing it and this was just like they're so good at making the one game that's how good I think they are, where I'm like, this could be true. I just really want to play Silksong is really what it comes down to.
Part of me is like, maybe you're overthinking it a little bit, but also, God, that would be so fun if that were true. And like, the
it's like internet Blair Witch Project, like old school marketing, where it's like, what's happening? And then it's like one day, just like in a Twitch stream that's doing a seance, it's just gonna be.
It's just
that
there.
one is the first gameplay of Silksong.
It'd be so cool, man. And I'm so ready for Silksong to come in and be like, hey, here's your game of the year and goodbye. And that'd be so freaking cool, because I do think it has that potential. I'm just like coming off of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and now Dragon's Dogma 2, which I just beat last night, by the way.
Okay, I'm definitely,
or at least the main quest.
I have no idea how far I am in this game.
It's part of maybe the jank, I would say, for sure.
Okay.
That said, I think my high has come down a little bit on both of those games, where I still think they're strong video games, but they're both games that is like, I'll play throughout the year. Like I really just wanted to get through Dragon's Dogma 2. I do think there's a lot of positive things with it, but like with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I'm like, I'm just playing it casually whenever, I'm like, I'm going to hop back in and put it another hour. That said, all that to say, they're strong, but I'm like, man, coming off of like how I felt about Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, Elden Ring before
we've
that.
Been spoiled.
It's like we've been spoiled, and I'm like, these aren't hitting those highs. They're hitting like kind of like the like solid video game and just like, you know, my normal gaming itch rather than like, hell yeah, this was the high that I'm chasing.
I heard, or I listened to a little bit of Skill Up's review of Dragon's Dogma, but I kind of turned it off after like I like how he kind of does the overtures, because sometimes I'm like, I don't need to hear your whole opinion, because we talk about stuff too, and I don't want to like oversaturate. But
yeah,
I think he made a great point of just saying like there doesn't seem to be an in between about this game, which I think is largely macro true. But then I was like, well, I'm very much in the middle, and I don't know where I'm coming down on it. I think I enjoy it moment to moment quite a bit, but I think when I think about the time that I've spent per like session, let's call it, I'm like, oh, did I really only like seemingly move like one side quest forward because everything is so unintuitive? Even though I understand everything now, it hasn't gotten faster to do any of it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. So like every time you pick something up, you have to do inventory management. No matter what, if you get a cart, guess what? You're not going to get there. You're going to halfway through, and then their cart's going to bug out, either like literally just disappear or like explode. My cart's been exploding a bunch. Like it's just like, or like they attack and instantly the ox is dead, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, cool. So it's the middle of the night, and I'm like in the middle of nowhere. Great. This is going to be just a little bit of panic for like 5 minutes. And so that's what I feel a lot of the time with the game, where I'm like, why you gotta do this like this, please? Like, do you not like me?
Some of the jank is like, God,
and some of it's fun.
Some of it's great, and some of it I'm like, in a normal setting, I would hate this game.
Yeah.
But it does just enough of the other stuff where it's like,
it's dumb.
The class
it's like,
system is kind of fun. It's kind of just goofy.
It's
and
a
shit just
Capcom
happens.
game. It's a Capcom game. It's just what it really comes down to. Where I'm like, this isn't supposed to be a serious Game of the Year contender, because that's not what Capcom makes when they're not making fighting games. You know what I mean? Like, they just are that. Like, usually it's just throwing out stuff that's pretty good, pretty fun. But like, I have a lot of fun in a game like this, being like, you know what? I'm going to be the Mystic Spearhand and see where I can get that I shouldn't be.
Yes.
And, you know, like just doing stupid stuff by yourself. And then the physics of gravity is so weird in how it.
I mean, have you been picked up, or have you climbed on a griffin yet and like flown like halfway across the map?
Trophy today, right before this.
It's like, and then you get ones like that. It's like, oh, this is tight. This is tight.
Yeah.
And then the dragon fights are cool. It's like, all right, that I get it. Yeah. Some of the jank, I'm like, whatever. I
mean, it's wide open right now, is what we're saying.
I do think it's wide open. And Silksong drops, and I'd put money on that bad boy. I would put money on that bad boy.
If I don't see how a game that is like so, like the bones of it are so good with Hollow Knight, and the idea of like, would I say that the Hollow Knight story was the most important part of Hollow Knight to me? No, it's the moment-to-moment gameplay, level design, customization of, you know, all the things that you can do, stress of discovery.
But the world building via its level design and its, you know, environments.
I think you're going to be able to do that again. You're going to be able to do that again. 100%. And you already have this other character that has an interesting moveset you developed for the first game. It's going to feel like so fresh. Just be like boom, like just knocking it. It's like the perfect.
It's teed up. It's teed up to
ready to be a winner, and we would love it to be.
This will feel like a different type of sequel, because most sequels are like, hey, you're going from Spider-Man to Spider-Man 2. It's like you're still playing Spider-Man. Whereas this one, it's like, there's like a consistent and familiar moveset.
Yeah.
But like the play style visually, like immediately looks so much different than the original, than Hollow Knight. I'm like, this is going to feel like a brand new game almost.
Yeah.
Or rather, it's almost going to feel like a new IP. I'm excited. God, I really hope you're right, and it's coming in the next, like, imagine if we get an announcement in like next 2 weeks, Spencer. Then you were part of the chaos magic.
I mean, hey,
and I'll give you credit for that.
Speak it into existence,
because I totally missed it when you slacked that.
Will it?
Like, oh shit, missed that.
You gotta move. You can alter reality through collective focus. Is part of chaos magic, literally the tenet of it.
Team Cherry, take all the time you need. We just really want this game. We really want this game.
I rewatched the trailer today and I was like, yeah,
it's gonna be sick.
Okay, so Fallout. Speaking of games,
those are games. Fallout, baby. Yeah, that's the song. That's the Fallout song. They put it in the show.
Okay, cool. Didn't place it.
All right,
but
damn,
Danny, you're watching it as someone who's played how many Fallouts?
3 Fallout, 2.5. I didn't finish
2.5. Okay, I've really not played much Fallout at all. I would say I've maybe started multiple Fallouts, but I've never played more than 10 hours of any of them.
Yeah, it's classic Bethesda floaty combat that you aren't the biggest fan of. I will say I'm a newer addition to Fallout. Oh, you know what? I played a little bit of Fallout 76, so that's 3.5 rather. I'm a newer Fallout enthusiast. Like, I played Fallout 4. I really enjoyed Fallout 4. I think some of the Fallout fans were like, not as good. And then I went back to play New Vegas and 3 because I enjoyed Fallout 4 so much. And I was like, yeah, New Vegas, I'm like, I get it. This is like a proper, tight, old school Bethesda, Bethesda RPG, even though technically it was Obsidian that developed that one. So I went back. I really got into Bethesda. Does such a good job at writing lore that, like, it's one of those games that after I played Fallout 4 for, like, I don't know, 150, 200 hours, it was just like one of those where it's like on, spare time between lunch breaks and stuff. I'm like reading Fallout lore and Wikipedia lore and watching videos. So I'm not like an expert at its lore, but I'm pretty well familiar with its world.
Okay, so I'm coming from like a much less Fallout oriented place, like in the sense of, and where did you watch this with Lily?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm also watching this with Christine. Is Lily zero Fallout knowledge?
She watched me play a little bit of Fallout 4 and she remembers the dialogue and the tone, but not not much more than that.
Yeah, and Christine's like understood it was a video game and she was like, it looks cool, right? Let's watch it. Okay, so I wanted to set the stage because I was thinking about the differences of Fallout as an adaptation and what is now like what you think of video game adaptation. When you think of the good one, it's Last of Us, right? And like, I think they're obviously very different approaches because one is a story, one is not. But in terms of people who don't know about video games or Fallout specifically, I think this is a much different way of digesting a video game adaptation than what they did with Last of Us. I think it's interesting in how different they feel.
Yeah, because I've really enjoyed, so we're going to talk about the first 4 episodes because I've really enjoyed the tone and sort of like how they got the feel of the world down. And it makes sense. Like Bethesda's involved in this, Todd Howard's involved with this. Just like Neil Druckmann was involved with the HBO one. But it just works a lot more for sort of the, I don't know, goofy, a little gory, a little gross. Kind of, there's some fun jabs in there.
It's hitting what I understand the Fallout series bread and butter.
Oh yeah, it's nailing it. And I think part of it is the benefit of it's being a kind of like the Final Fantasy where it's like each game is its own installment. Basically, you don't really need to play the previous ones to like enjoy it. They're pretty self-contained standalone stories outside of like the shared world. So because of that, you get a whole original story. Like basically none of this is in the games. Like, the story itself is brand spanking new for TV. And it's
Todd Howard
canon.
Literally came out and said, not only is it canon, but he's like, this is the amount of content that we would want to do in a Fallout 5, so you can basically consider this that. Like
nuts.
Yeah,
nuts.
Which I think is very interesting.
It's super cool. It's a cool way of ingesting
Viewing
this
it.
world and this story, yeah.
And I think that's a key difference.
Yes.
That's one of the key differences I wanted to talk about for a second. So I think, because I don't know about you, but for Christine, and I would suspect a lot of other people that are not video game literate as much, I feel like there's going to be an overlap of confusion about the stakes for everyone involved, right? Because I think the biggest difference in the way that this is an adaptation of a video game versus Last of Us, aside from Last of Us being a contained story, is that we're adapting an open world, like RPG that is kind of in ways trying to create emergent stories, like in the ways that it could throughout all the various periods of time that those games have come out. But you want it to feel as if that, your choices have consequence. Not everybody has the same journey. But the thing is, it treats it so much like a Fallout video game where you don't know what you just are dropped into the start of the game. Like with any other game, they have the getting to know you levels for every character to kind of understand who they are. You get, okay, we got 3 different main people we're going to be following. And here's like their tutorial level, literally. Like the first episode is basically that. And I think then it really starts to feel like an open world game where it's like everyone's just going to an objective, and then what happens along the way is the story, right? And that, I think, is confusing if you're not someone who's played a lot of open world video games. Because they're treating it like the way when I read that quote, I was like, oh, that's why I actually really am not asking any of those questions, because Christine will be like, wait, but why does any of this matter to anybody? There's like multiple bomb timelines and like, who cares? Like, why is he in the like all of it? I was like, I don't know. This is a video game. It's really what I said. I was like, you don't get that stuff in video games.
No.
You just are the dude
things
that's
are just
in the
happening.
Brotherhood. Like that's how you just start.
I mean,
the
beginning of the series, like episode 1, is quite literally structured like the beginning of a Fallout game. Like Fallout 4 in particular, where they ripped out that story structure and put it on TV, where it's like, oh, there's some pre-war stuff, and like moments being like right when the same day that the bombs drop. Just like Fallout 4. Oh, you're in the vault, and these people have never been outside the vault, and like some bad shit goes down pretty quickly, and all of a sudden forces you to go outside into the world, and exactly like the game happens. And then you're just like, oh, go to the main settlements. Okay, I gotta go to the main settlements. Talk to somebody. They're gonna tell me where the person I'm looking for. Like literally, you're right, completely done like that. I think it's this show. And someone left a comment. I've been thinking about this a little bit, because I think The Last of Us is a better TV show, but this Fallout series might be a better video game adaptation.
And I would almost say, because video games can be so varied, it's almost as if comparing them doesn't make sense. Because I'm like, Fallout is high-minded popcorn.
Yes.
The Last of Us is prestige. And that's also the games, I would say.
Yes. And like, nothing wrong with either of those at all. But they're just kind of so different in like their DNA of like how stories are structured. I don't know. It's fun. I think they got the color right, the tone right, the violence right. Because it's gory, and just like Fallout's gory.
Really gory, shockingly gory at points.
I mean, the characters are well written. I'd say it's some of the best writing in a Fallout anything. So it's like, good job, team.
Good job, writers' room that wrote this show based on notes, basically. From
Yeah.
I was like, here's like kind of the vibe, and then they wrote such a good adaptation of it.
Yeah.
Um,
This is the only thing about the show. It's like it's very the Easter eggs are really only satisfying, and like some of the world content is only satisfying if you know Fallout lore and if you played the games. Like the first episode where she goes, "Oh, I'm Lucy, and I've done a little bit of training this, and that." I'm like, "Oh, I totally was like, they're literally describing the skill tree right now," which is a fun like Easter egg. But any non-player would have been like, "What? I had that totally went over my head." It's just stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
So I get Christine's point about like, yeah, stuff's just happening and like why.
But it gets like I think it's cool because I think that's what makes it an interesting show that I'm interested in what more episodes would bring. Because I'm like, oh, okay, it's kind of proving out the concept of like, you know how Borderlands I think is in there's a development for a movie, show, or whatever. I'm like, yeah. So put a little more Mad Max in it. Basically take the framework of Fallout and you got Borderlands for as long as you want. Now one thing
doesn't look quite as good, I'd say.
Right. Yeah. There also is there's Amazon money behind this one. Even though it's not the most expensive show, I think it was pretty economical because honestly, how much of it is practical? Like literally, like
it's fun. The props and everything looks
awesome.
Great. Yeah, it's cool.
I love just seeing a dude on stilts walk around in a big suit. It's the best. Every time I see it,
it feels
I'm like,
right, and it feels right
yeah,
too.
Dude, hell yeah, right. It looks kind of janky, but it reminds me of RoboCop, and that's at the highest praise I can give.
And guess what? That's Bethesda, baby. Those are their games. Janky as hell.
Now, the other side of it is: have you seen or have you read the Silo series or seen the Amazon Silo show?
I've seen half that season. We dropped it just not because we wanted to. It's just we just didn't get around back to it. But yeah, we saw like half the season.
Shouts out, I think Colleen recommended reading those. Did like them, but I also think I'm like, but are they the most interesting? Maybe not. I like them, but the thing is, I'm like, I know Fallout's about vaults, but I know that Fallout doesn't really do a lot of you're in the vault. You're out of the vault most of the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is, as someone who's just read the Silo series very recently, I was like, so basically your B plot is the book series Silo? Like exactly, where it's like Silo 1 controls all the other silos. There's like, yeah, it's interestingly close, but I'm also just like, that's not the only Silo book. Silo is not the only Silo book. People have been writing people in silos for as long as sci-fi has been around. So it's like it's a universal, I think. Bunkers,
and
time,
nuclear,
being frozen. Blast from the Past is a bunker movie that predates all of this, and it's basically, I would say, the basis for Fallout is probably they really like the movie Blast from the Past. Which is a great movie.
Yeah.
An all-timer.
I do think that's probably a little bit more of a coincidence because the way that they handle the vaults in this one in the show, because you have like 31, 32, 33, right? Is effectively there was it's a reference to sister vaults in Fallout 3, I think.
Right.
Where it's like, you had sister vaults kind of running a similar experiments or whatever. Because each vault technically were independently run. So even though I'm getting into the world lore now here a little bit, Vault-Tec created all these vaults, but there was like no unified plan. Basically, each vault ran independently, with the exception of like now these three from the series, and then a couple of other instances in the games where it's like, oh, a couple of vaults were like unified and they had like sister or mirroring basically experiments on people.
Right. This makes sense.
Yeah, so that's where that comes from. But I mean, I'm sure at some point they were inspired by similar things.
But overall, it's fun. I'm having a good time.
It's a fun show. I'm having a good time.
And I will say, if you finished it and you're looking to fill a bit of a Fallout hole, Twisted Metal is right there. And honestly, they feel like kindred spirits in tone, in practicality, practical effects. I would dare say, I haven't looked it up, I bet there's some overlapping talent somewhere. Like, I don't know if it's design, but they really they feel like they are potentially in the same world. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Give me an Avengers level event of just random ass video game mashup. Like, why not? Why couldn't it be in the Fallout universe? Twisted Metal.
It'd be cool.
Totally could be. That'd be fine.
Just real quick,
perfectly.
Real quick, I think the storylines and the acting has been very strong for with the material. It all makes sense. Walton Goggins, so good.
What's not to love, man?
He's so good. Ella Purnell's been great too. Aaron Clifton Moulton, who plays Maximus, has been great. The brother, I think has been really cool.
Brother's really good.
Just like
he's
an interesting,
so
like
tiny.
Yeah, he's like next to the other guy.
They also cast that guy real tall. That guy's probably my height, and like I assume he's probably your height. So is that how we look?
Maybe, but no, he's much smaller. He's much smaller.
Yeah, no,
like there's no shot. There's no shot.
6'5", yeah,
he's 5'1".
Yeah, okay, he's 5'1", and that dude is then I guess would be like probably my height, maybe a little taller.
Yeah. I'm like that. It looked so funny when they left the
really
fall for the first
fun.
time. I was like, oh, this is hilarious.
Yeah,
Good series. Like, I recommend go give it a watch, and then we'll talk about our total thoughts. Spencer, you already finished watching it. I'm gonna catch up by next week, and we'll finish out our thoughts on the show.
We didn't have much to watch lately, so we really grinded it out.
I'm like, you guys crushed that out.
Yeah.
It just came out. I will last tidbit. I do wish that this was released episodically.
Would be a little more fun. But also, I don't like that. I don't.
I know, but I missed the conversation of the week to week, like we did with The Last of Us. It was
that was nice. Fun. That was fun.
And I'm like, it's not like Amazon Prime or Prime haven't done this before. They do it with The Boys. They do it with. We just finished watching season 2, Invincible. Yep. So it's like, I wonder if like maybe coming off of the mixed reviews for Starfield, if they weren't like super confident it was going to be well received, and it's like really well received, so they could have gotten away with the.
They could have gotten away with it
with the weekly releases. That's it.
Yep. Also, did you get ads this time? This is the first time I had Amazon content ads because I think they rolled it out to Chicago finally.
No, I haven't gotten ads for this show.
No. I'm saying before each episode, I would get like a 60 seconds of ads.
Yes.
But that just kind of started, I think, in Chicago. They just turned it on.
Bastards.
Huge bummer.
Bastards.
Speaking of huge bummers, humane.ai, wearable thing. So humane.ai is a AI tool that you wear that has a camera on it that can help you just with like, voice assistant type of things.
Yeah.
In theory, you can look at a building, and say, hey, what am I looking at? You can look at a person and take a photo. You can blah, 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 blah. It's AI stuff, right? So whatever's in that box is all sorts of machine learning stuff, connection to the internet, blah, blah, blah. So it was meant, honestly, to be something akin to a Fallout bracelet, where it's like, hey, this can really start to take over a lot of the things that you need. Like, it's getting to that idea of like the future that is supposed, quote unquote, we're supposed to get to see, right? With AI, this idea that it just makes your life easier. And it's like the first big device that has kind of come out, specifically targeting, this is not part of your phone or part of your computer. This is the thing. The thing is AI. And it came out. And it's $700 with a $24 monthly subscription.
Yeah.
Right. So
already off to a great start.
It's like 2 Apple Watches and then also like 2 streaming services worth of money to have. Like, basically, we're talking like getting close to like used car after like 3 years. You probably buy a used car with the money you spent. And it seems to not really work very good. And everybody's kind of like going all over the place with it, and there's a lot of weird stuff where people are like upset that reviewers of these devices, tech reviewers, people kind of like us, reviewed it.
Yeah.
And people are like, hey, that's not nice to review a thing and to be truthful about it, because that could hurt the company.
Oh man.
And that should not be in bounds. And that's a really interesting and wrong take.
It's where do we even start here?
Yeah, it's rough.
Okay, so a firestorm got lit up here because God, the reviews were scathing for this thing. It's like
And
interesting concept, but like it just doesn't work. It just straight up doesn't work.
All of the reviews that I would look at, like the long form YouTube ones, like MKH, Marquise Brownlee, and the letters are too hard. Honestly, his name is easy.
Fair.
Or like The Verge did a really long one.
Yeah,
and they spend so much of their reviews being like, I get it's if it was this, that would be, but it's that's how it feels. It's not like,
yeah.
Hey, this is stupid. It's mostly, they're all pretty, if anything, positive on parts that work, which are few, but they really trying to highlight the things that it's like.
Yeah. It's like, look, scathing in the sense that like tech reviews usually don't go like this. Usually like, nah, so these. Usually, even when somebody doesn't like it, like if Marquez doesn't like something, usually he says, it's not for me, but somebody's going to get used from this. Is usually how those types of reviews go.
Like a lot of tech reviewers are simply trying to tell you, yeah, you could spend money on this because it accomplishes the thing that it's trying to do. That's like really what tech reviews boil down to, because people, there is a sensationalized sector
100%.
of it, but I would say like people like Marquise Brownlee, The Verge, like Unbox Therapy, they're really just like, hey, we're just telling you how it works.
Yeah, it's just a showcase of like products that like we think are cool, and like eventually that's what we'd be doing too, because we're gonna pick up the Rabbit AI stuff. We'll talk to that in a second.
Don't miss Google that one, I'd say.
So I think tech, especially gadgets and products, are entering a space that they're just straight up unfamiliar with as far as reviewing of things. Like if you think about the way that like all forms of media are talked about online and reviewed, it's very much like, yeah, I didn't like this. This thing sucked. This thing was great. This thing is the best thing of all time. Like think about it with movies, video games.
Art is subjective.
Yes.
Yada, yada, yada.
With tech, it's a little bit more clear cut than that, because it's like, do you do the thing that you say you're going to do or not? And then it becomes
how good?
a question of like, how good does it do it compared to other people that also do similar things? And is it worth paying for? And once you get to that question, you have to deliver on the promised execution and function of whatever you're trying to sell. If I bought a pair of headphones that said that they were Bluetooth, but they didn't work half the time, like maybe like the original true wireless Bluetooth first couple generations, they weren't good. And you'd be like, yeah, these aren't, it's cool, the concept, and like, oh, it's like it's brand new, it's novel, so it feels cool, but it's like they didn't work well. They worked poorly.
They sounded like absolute crap.
They sounded like ass. So it's like, why would I not use wired headphones in time? Yeah.
At the time, it was like same type of reviews where they're like, yeah, if you like music, like, definitely don't.
Yep.
But if you like the idea of this going into your pocket and no cords,
So I think the core premise here of like why, because some tech founders were upset about Marcus Brownlee's reviews. Specifically, there's this one person on Twitter that said, I find it distasteful, almost unethical to say this when you have 18 million subscribers. Speaking of MKBHD's review, the worst product I've ever reviewed for now. Hard to explain why, but with great reach comes great responsibility. Potentially killing someone else's nascent project reeks of carelessness. First, do no harm. Marcus Brownlee responds with, we disagree on what my role is.
Yes, yeah, which is, it's like very interesting language, and language that to me makes the point that's trying to be made one that's hard to side with in any capacity.
Correct.
So I'm like, if you just said, hey man, like this is technically not a very big startup. They just hit layoffs in January already. Like, I bet you a lot of people worked hard on this. That's something I could at least go, all right, at least your point, I can see how you could feel that way, maybe. But the way he phrases it, I'm like, there's no path. And also, I'm like, still, even if it was phrased better, I'm not saying I agree, but I'm just saying the way it was phrased is really, it's part of how annoying it is.
It's
first rule, do no harm.
So ridiculous.
Like, that's going to national parks. That's what that is. That's absolutely the rule. First rule, do no harm is going to national parks or doctors.
Asinine.
Being a doctor.
Absolutely asinine. We're talking about a goddamn tech gadget here, a piece of electronics and plastic and metals, okay?
Precious metals.
There has been a disconnect. There has been a disconnect because of what you said, where it's like, is this thing worth my money or not? There's been a disconnect with tech reviews where people in the tech space that are no longer in tune with the everyday person. So it's like the person that tweeted this, who's a tech founder or whatever. Like, and we work in tech, so we've seen it firsthand. Just believe that basically anyone talking about your product, it only exists in an advertising or promotional capacity. And that at its core, reviewing is not the point of it. It's not the point of a review. It can result in marketing. It can result in like an influx of like more interested parties in your thing, whatever it is you're selling, hardware, software, doesn't matter. It can result in this, but that is not the core primary purpose. That what you're asking for is an advertisement. And at that point, it's no longer genuine to say, this is a review. There are literally laws against it.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's, I think the idea of like, how dare you to a company is where like it gets me the most riled up, because I'm like, I think you have to say a little bit to humane the company and the marketing. Like, you kind of walked yourself into this. Yeah. Like you just, and it's a part of being on the cutting edge of trying to make something. Like, I think the thing is, you can't get the money to build the thing without selling the dream, right? Like, part of getting venture capital is selling the future that you're trying to deliver, but you don't have it because that's why you need money, right? Like, that's how it works. But I think the problem is, I think they maybe believed their dream too much as like how their company presented itself as what this was going to be. Yeah. What this, like, literally they were presenting this as like, this is the beginning of the future. Do you remember I had brought up on a podcast, why am I seeing so much humane.ai stuff?
Oh, that's right.
Everywhere. It was everywhere.
That's right.
I could not avoid
it.
Yes. And I was like, I haven't personally looked this stuff up at all, but we're getting so targeted. And that's like, they were putting these seeds of like, this is about to blow everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Like, this is an incredible tool for people. Like, they're pulling on all the strings, right? And then you
flops.
Oversold what you said.
You're almost positioned it like you're right. You're absolutely right. You nailed it. Because all of the marketing and the information about this is positioned almost like it's reaching out to venture capitalists in 2016.
Yeah.
Because you don't get away with this anymore. And
it just doesn't work like that anymore.
2 years, 3 years, it's changed drastically.
Yeah, people are like way too careful with what people spend money on, and like everyone researches like this now.
And it's because
so often you get tricked.
I heard a tech executive once say, people don't buy our thing for what it does. People buy it for what it can do tomorrow. And in that moment, I was like, this is the most fucking moronic thing I've ever heard. Why would I ever buy something for a purpose that it doesn't serve for right now at this moment? That's bad spending. Well, and once you reach out to consumers, once you target consumers, the question is, what's the value prop right now, especially right now?
Especially with like what, for all intents and purposes, is an extraneous device.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the thing where it's like, you could sell this as a high-end toy, in its current state.
Call it a toy then.
But don't. Yeah, I think it's tough because I feel like we're at like a tipping point of marketing right now where I don't necessarily think that marketers are understanding motivation because there just has to be so much marketing because there's so many channels. It's truly just honestly, like most of the time, if you're a relatively large company spending money on marketing, the answer is do it all. Like, yeah, go for it. Because there's very few things that are going to hurt when you're just trying to get your name out there. Yeah. And that's what marketing is. And we consume so much of it that it has to be so varied, right?
Yeah.
But then I think what happens is we don't even know what the thing is until we are able to see someone do something with it. Like, I would never buy a TV just because of the brand name and the price point. I would never like choose a Wi-Fi router without researching it because so many of the ones that you can find are bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because there's so much bad tech in the world of tech. And so it's like, I'm sorry, you release something, it's not yours anymore. So be it a movie, TV show, book, like slideshow at work, like anything, like once you give it to someone else, they get to decide if it's good or bad. You don't. That's just how it works.
Yeah, you're asking people to spend time and or money on your thing. Yeah, the audience decides as for better or worse, and sometimes for worse. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. Yeah. It's I don't know. I think it's like a little bit of the last vestiges of like tech, and it's I don't know what's the word. Just like they thought too highly of themselves for so long, and now that's coming down. And like AI is getting adopted, and like and it's really again just a bunch of data sets and data and information pushed out. It's not actually artificial intelligence. And people are using it in the tech industry, and the tech executives like AI, all the things. But it's like, okay, it was big data before, and then it was data engineering, and then it was data science, and now it's called AI. It'll be called something next year. Okay.
Yeah, and I also will say though at the same point, like, and it's something that anybody that's listening to this podcast probably you should learn about.
You should. I'm not saying that like it's gonna go away.
No.
It's not gonna go away.
Definitely there's a lot of interesting utility.
There's some cool stuff here. I think
you should be experimenting with it, and you should understand it because
100%.
No matter what your job is, knowing about AI will be good for you.
Yes, it'll only benefit you. This is like why would you not learn about the internet when the internet was
exactly?
It is basically
it is shocking though sometimes. I don't know at your work or just in talking to just people like our friends and stuff who are all kind of in tech in different ways. Like, I don't know how much people are thinking about AI. And I'm like, y'all, like all of our jobs, no matter what, you should know a lot about it.
I think there's some resistance because of how quickly it's gone after like the arts in particular.
Yeah,
which fair sucks. That part totally sucks, totally bad. But as far as like you gotta write up your like self review, you gotta clean up your resume, and like all of that's a very functional functionality there.
And it's like it's really scary, and I get all of the
you just have to learn. But you just have to learn.
Best thing to be, hey, the robots take over. You want to be the person that make sure the robots don't fully take over.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because, we all got to eat still. Because I really got to get that humane.ai device.
Look, but I think we
let's end on some fun AI, Danny, which is the TCL trailer. Fun in the sense of I've watched it a couple times. I sent this to Christine. No, I did not give her context. And she just said, I'm disgusted, I think was her response, which was very funny. And I was like, yeah, it's really creepy.
It's wild.
The more I've watched it, the more I'm like, is AI art generation just somehow become what dreams are? Because it feels as if you're in a dream when you're watching it.
Almost. Yeah.
And I'm like, sometimes your dreams can feel this out of sorts and
just
terrifying.
Uncanny
and mundane.
Valley. It's more like general shapes rather than like more tangible, clear images. So TCL released an AI movie trailer of a rom-com.
Yeah, so TCL,
TCL
is getting into what is it? The TV, what is it called? Free TV, ad-supported TV. It's like FAST is the free ad-supported television is what the new market is called. It's like the Pluto TV app, Crackle, before Crackle isn't Crackle Premium now. I don't remember. But it is their version of that. Like all of the brands have it, where it's like, oh, we just need content because we don't want to pay people. This is all rights-free shit that we are putting on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we want to do some original stuff. So they decided, let's just do AI stuff. Why not? And it seems that that's just literally why they did this. Because they're like, yeah, we just like want to have original content. And we just thought, what if we did this? And it's insane. It's going to be terrible, but it's a really good marketing ploy already, for me at least. Because I'm like, I'm going to watch like 10 to 15 minutes of this for sure. For sure.
It looks so bad.
It looks truly unsettling. It's like they took all of the AI creation took all of like the scariest parts of like the Robert Zemeckis 3D realistic quote unquote movies that like I don't watch them like because they make me feel weird.
Yeah.
Just like this trailer. It's worth a watch, I would say.
Oh, for sure. It's at least the entertainment value alone is like wild to be like, what the hell is this? I will say it's slightly better than what Rent-A-Center is currently. Rent-A-Center is currently running advertisements. I don't know if they've come up for you on like Instagram or YouTube yet.
Not yet.
But for me on TikTok, they've come up straight up AI generated people showing their excitement for buying stuff from Rent-A-Center.
Yeah, and I would assume all that excitement has intense existential dread across.
Not
like
good.
The eyes really are what are not working so far.
If you don't see it soon, I wouldn't be shocked if they pull it because they are getting ratioed like crazy. It's like
they're getting what?
Ratioed. You know, it's like 500 likes, but 500 comments. That's like not a good ratio. More people are like interacting with it negatively than they are like engaging with it.
Oh, because comments usually mean bad if likes aren't high.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
That means you're getting roasted.
I thought you said something like race show, and I was like, oh, it's racist? Of course it's racist. No. Okay. Because I was like, of course it's going to be racist. Like AI tends to tilt towards the information it consumes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, humans are pretty racist. As a people of the species.
That's the white guy saying it, okay? Not me. Before I get DEI'd out of this podcast.
What?
I don't know. People are using that as the insult now.
Oh no, I'm just saying. Like that's one of the scariest parts of it. It could create just a humongous racist monster because most of them before ChatGPT literally all did that.
Yeah.
Like all of the attempts at like AI stuff has ended in, we had to just shoot it because it became a Nazi. We had to take it out back, beat it like it was a printer in Office Space.
Man, it's a wild time for there. Well, interesting, risky play from TCL here. We'll see how it works out for them. After having pretty good showing at CES.
Really good showing at CES. The QM8, can't wait to potentially pretend my TV breaks so I can buy another TV.
Oh, boy.
I really want a mini LED.
Man, the LEDs are where it's at, man.
It's so cool.
It looks so good.
TVs
it
are
looks
dope.
so good. We're going to pick up the Rabbit AI and then we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. I think this has been our podcast.
This has been the DMGT podcast. Buy underwears and clean your